Do you ever wonder why sometimes it feels like you're working out 6 days a week, your diet's perfect, and you're doing everything right, but you just don't seem to get the results you're looking for? A lot of people are feeling this way, and it's because we're overloading our systems. And it all comes down to the number one thing I'm going to talk about in this video, your mitochondria. This is going to be the biggest shift we see in the health and wellness industry in 2026. A lot of people are coming around to the fact that everything in our bodies is made up of cells, and every function is a cellular function. So if you don't have the cellular bandwidth to build muscle, to sleep properly, to utilize the nutrients properly in your body, then all of this extra stuff you're doing is for nothing. So I'm going to cover in this video, top to bottom, everything out there that can improve your mitochondria and cellular health to make sure that you're getting the results that you deserve for the work you're putting in. When you bring this up to your doctor, here's what he's going to tell you. Your mitochondria doesn't really start taking a dip until your mid to late 30s, and then after that it slowly decays, and that's just part of natural aging. And what will start happening is you're not going to rebound as quickly from your workouts. Your recovery will go from 24 hours to 48 to 72, and your hangovers are going to start lasting 3-4 days, and you're not going to have the same energy to get up off the couch, and that you just need to eat healthy, and this will all go away. That is crap, and the unfortunate reality is that this actually starts affecting people in their 20s because of the ultra-processed food diet that we're consuming on a daily basis. It has clouded our mitochondrial function so much so that we're seeing people in their 20s that are completely depleted of the basic cellular function they need to get the results that they want when they're exercising, when they're eating all this food, when they're trying to sleep well. And it even reflects in our hormones, which you guys know I believe is the root of a lot of the problems we have, especially in men in today's society. So in this video, I'm going over the 3 levels of mitochondrial function: good, better, best, and it's going to be made up of 9 different things you can do to optimize your body at the cellular level. But before we get started, it is important to note, I am not a doctor. Nothing I say in this video should be misconstrued with medical advice, and if you're going to try to do any of these treatments on your own, make sure you're only doing so under direct supervision of a medical professional. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. A lot of people don't realize how much your mitochondria impacts every mechanism of your body. And I'm talking every mechanism of your body. Everything you're doing requires new nerve growth. Trying to add more size and definition to a muscle could not be more cellular. And when we're doing cellular functions, the currency that we've talked about on this page is ATP. That decides how much energy that you have, the amount of output that your body can contribute to cellular production. So if I want to grow my muscle, I can only grow it as much as the ATP that I have in my body will allow me to output, the amount that it will allow me to use to contribute towards this function. Now, if the ATP is the currency, the mitochondria is the mint. This is where the energy is produced. This is where we decide how much currency we're allowed to have. A lot of times people focus on the ATP, and I'm guilty of this too. We're trying to make the ATP worth more. We're trying to turn 50 cents into $1 when we could just start printing $100 bills. Because what actually happens, the longer you let this go unmanaged and you start aging, all of your ATP starts becoming less efficient over time. Your $1 turns into 90 cents and then to 80 cents. And then you're having to upregulate so much more ATP to keep up with the cellular functions that you're used to doing. This is why you start recovering slower when you get older, and you can't hit the same body part multiple times a week because you haven't recovered from the last one. So again, instead of trying to go from 80 cents back up to 90 cents, let's just start printing more currency. Now, for those of you smart cookies out there, you might say, oh, well, is there any sort of inflation that happens with that? And the answer is no. But it's not just for muscle building. This also determines everything about the way that we look, including how much of our hair we keep and how fast it turns gray. And for a lot of you guys on this page, you voiced that that is a burning topic for you. So if you want to avoid a trip to Turkey, one of the best things you can do to prevent that is to optimize your mitochondrial function so that your cells stay healthy and continue producing the hair that you know and love. Now, I could sit here and talk to you all day about how it's going to improve your brain, the way you sleep, the way you think, the way you do everything. But what's important is, what do you need to know about how you can improve it and how can you use it in your everyday life? Now, let's get into the list. Level 1 is going to be our introductory level that if you've never done anything before, there's pretty much no risk associated with this and you can't mess them up. And there's 3 things on this level. The first one is red light therapy. And a lot of people think this is a gimmick, but if you get the right panels, they actually work pretty well. I'll show you guys the ones I have here. I've got 2 of these suckers right here. They're gigantic. When certain wavelengths of light, specifically 630 to 850 nanometers of infrared light, hit your skin, it has a really cool effect. And it targets your, bear with me on this, cytochrome C oxidase. And to save you on the introductory ones, there's not too much science involved, but imagine we've got our mint, our mitochondria, where we're producing the energy, and one of our machines is operating at 50%. That machine is like your cells, and they're battery charged. Now, that red light is like adding a solar panel and letting it absorb more power to operate more efficiently. Benefits of red light range from improved collagen, as well as sleep quality, muscle recovery, Me personally, the biggest thing I notice is how well I rest when I do use it at night. I haven't noticed as crazy on the results on anything muscle-wise or anything on my skin, but I do really like the way it helps me sleep. The second product on level 1 is Methylene Blue, and if you've seen any of these influencers online that have the blue tongues or blue teeth, and a lot of people promote a Methylene Blue product primarily because it's unregulated and it acts kind of like a vitamin. Anybody can buy one. Your mitochondria produce energy on a chain of reactions. Imagine it like a relay race, right? One guy runs 100 meters, passes the baton, hands it off to the next guy, next 100 meters, and so on and so forth. This happens all the way till you get to the finish line where the ATP gets created. This is your electron transport chain. Now, when your mitochondria starts to get damaged or stressed, those relays start to break down and they're not passing the baton to the next guy. They're missing the handoff. Methylene Blue is really effective at acting as a connection for those electrons to make sure they're passing the energy from one to the next so that it reaches the finish line and gets to the ATP production. So if your malfunction in your mitochondria is that your electrons are not making the connections to get to the final stage, then Methylene Blue is a very viable product. But for most people, that's not their biggest problem, which is why I have it ranked at the first level instead of much higher, but it is very effective for what it's designed to do. Something cool to note about Methylene Blue is it does act as a really powerful antioxidant for the mitochondria, which is one of the hardest places to reach at an antioxidant level. Now, nobody's electron relay team is perfect and never makes mistakes, so adding something like this in can always improve the level of energy output that we can get, which is why people that use Methylene Blue report feeling that extra level of enthusiasm or energy or just the mental wherewithal to go attack their day. And the last item on level 3 isn't an item at all, and that's fasting. There are independent studies that show fasting increases cellular activity by nearly 13,000% if you make it to the 72-hour mark. Now, that's a pretty big stretch. I have never personally gone that far. I've gone 24. But if you've ever done fasting, you know that feeling you get when you get past the hunger after about hour 10 to 12. And from then on, it's just sharp focus because you're in that state that you needed to be in 2,000 years ago when we had to go hunt and kill our food and you had to go find a gazelle and kill that thing for your family. Otherwise, they didn't survive. You enter that state every time you fast. And a lot of people believe that this is actually how we're supposed to treat our bodies, is that we're only supposed to eat once a day, once every 2 days, the way our ancestors did so many years ago. But I can say from my own personal experience, fasting has shown incredible results, especially when I'm going through any sort of body recomp. If I'm able to go a full day where I just don't eat anything, my body starts to kill off the damaged cells in my body because it's now gone into my fight or flight state. It makes me from the inside out more physically adept to go handle my tasks so that I can go find a way to feed. It's a really cool biological shift, and a lot of people don't practice this kind of stuff. They always think about what more can I add? What else can I put into my stack? Which I'm probably the last guy who should be talking about not putting more things into your stack. But there are a lot of things you can do outside of supplementation and peptides and protein and everything like that that can also have really positive effects, and fasting is one. All right, now on to level 2, which is going to completely negate everything I just said about fasting and talk about supplementation and peptides. Starting with Urolithin A. Now, this is a product I have used every time I take something like SS31, which a lot of you guys know I am a huge fan of. Urolithin A provides one of the best cellular functions in the body, which is mitophagy. This is your cellular housekeeping, taking out the trash, getting rid of the junk that doesn't need to be in our cellular system. This is really beneficial because every action in the body has an equal or opposite reaction. So if we have to remove old damaged mitochondria, that means it's to replace it with new fresh mitochondria. This process happens constantly and it happens flawlessly in our youth, which is why we stay looking youthful, because our skin cells are replenishing themselves and getting rid of the old ones very effectively. Same thing with our hair, and we can put on muscle a little bit easier. We don't seem to get fat. All of that happens at the cellular level. But as we start to get older, our cells want to stick around a little longer. They don't want to retire. They like their cozy position that they don't have to work that hard and they can continue making their salary. All of a sudden, you got to come in and say, hey, old timer, get the heck out of my body because you are causing problems here. You're slowing down the speed of work because you're not able to keep up anymore. Now, when that mitochondria doesn't want to go, that's where you need something like Urolithin A. Now, this becomes incredibly valuable, especially for those of you who have had bad diets in the past, where you've been consuming a lot of things like hyper-processed carbohydrates or seed oils that just sit there and decay and rot your mitochondria and make it really difficult for them to recycle. Urolithin A is naturally produced in our gut, but for most people, their gut is completely wrecked and they don't even know it. One of the biggest things I noticed on myself with this, the length of time that I was able to go on sets, I didn't tap out as early. I was actually able to contract the muscle and get a better pump the more I used it. It's also not very expensive. You can get it on Amazon fairly cheap, and I've had really good results. Number 2 on level 2, PQQ. This one does something very unique compared to the other ones we've talked about, which are mostly fine-tuning and improving the mitochondria. This one actually makes new ones. This is nearly impossible to find in your diet or any natural supplement. It is prevalent in things like kiwi, green peppers, and parsley, but not in any amount that's going to make any noticeable difference. If this doesn't happen for you naturally, you have to supplement. For those of you on this page that are very physique focused, like a lot of you are, The more mitochondria you have, the more ATP production can go into your muscle fibers and improve the strength and resiliency of your muscle. Elite athletes have been shown to have upwards of 300% more mitochondria than the average everyday person walking around. So if you're doing everything right in the gym with your diet, your exercise, you're going hard and you're just not getting the results, try adjusting your mitochondria. Do something like PQQ to increase the amount of mitochondria you have so that your cells can keep up with the level of production you're giving them. The last one in level 2 is Spermidine, and you guessed it, this one came from sperm. This is designed to clear out broken mitochondria, very similar to something like Urolithin A, except the difference here is it activates a broader composition of the same cleaning process, meaning it's telling the cell to clear out all kinds of junk, not just the mitochondria, protein, extracellular residue, misfolded molecules, the list goes on. All right, now we're getting into the best stuff, and it is important to note before we get into level 3 that all of this stuff should be used conjunctively. You shouldn't just use everything that's in level 3 and disregard 2 and 1. A lot of them pair really well together. And we'll start that list with NAD+ or NMN. NAD is the molecule that the mitochondria absolutely cannot function without. It is 100% necessary. We're born with a finite amount of it. As we go through our life, we start to burn up our NAD stores. Every time that we do anything athletic, every time we have a stressful situation, every time we move our arm or blink, we're using our NAD. And once we reach a point where we've got none left, it's like operating an iPhone with no battery. Useless. NAD is the fuel that makes the car go. We have to replenish our gas tank if we want the car to continue to drive effectively. This specifically shows itself in physical training and physical output. If you don't have the NAD stores to operate your body like an athlete, you're going to start to notice that, and your muscles are going to start giving out. And when that happens, they don't recover as quickly, and you end up doing more harm by exercising than good. It's like trying to drive a car that has no gas and you're just revving the engine. If there's one thing on this list I think everybody should take, it would be NAD+. I think this is the minimum viable product you have to have if you want to avoid aging and most of the things that come with it. Everything else on top of this is more in the optimization realm. NAD, I feel, is a necessity for people, and a lot of people don't realize it. Next in level 3 is a two-parter, and there's a reason I put these two together. SS31 and MOTS-c. I've used SS31 twice now, and both times I finished my 2-week program of it, I feel on top of the world between my own physical appearance, between the energy that I feel, between the way that I'm resting and recovering. I just noticed the difference, and it's pretty immediate. And a lot of people that I've given this to, especially before it was popular, ended up saying that it was one of their favorite peptides they've ever used. Especially if you've had a past that involved a lot of heavy drinking or any sort of bad diet. A lot of you have cell membranes that have been completely rotted from the inside, and they're actually leaking ATP and mitochondrial efficiency. SS31 goes in and structurally repairs the membrane of your mitochondria so that there are no leaks, so that you're actually getting the benefit from your ATP production, right? So remember, there's two layers to this process. There's the actual creation of the ATP, and then there's the way that our body uses the ATP. This is going to make sure that these two steps are able to happen effectively and not spill off in between. This is one of those things that if used effectively, you can go into old age or heavy strain muscles and continue to perform as though you did in your youth. If you can plug the hole of the leak, you can stop all of these aging effects that we're talking about and continue to do full sprints into your 40s and 50s and continue to bench super heavy because you're not losing that cellular output. Then the second half of this one is MOTS-c. These two pair so well together because the SS31 is strengthening and reinforcing your cells. Now the MOTS-c goes in and takes all those strong cells that we've built up and it multiplies them like crazy. It actually pushes our dormant fat cells into burning fat cells that we now use for energy, so it makes it easier to lean out, and it sends more mitochondria into your muscle fibers, making it easier to put on muscle. So we're talking about gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time while having it actually be healthy for you. Now that we're seeing these peptides that offer things like nutrition partitioning, as well as increasing our cellular function and moving our cells towards their designed function, we can see incredible results. And this is just scratching the surface. This is just what we know now. Imagine what we're going to know 10 years from now. Just like everything else, your MOTS-c declines with age and at pretty rapid rates. But when you're able to supplement with this and use this a couple times a year, you can keep your body functioning at that crazy high output level. Again, I definitely recommend pairing this with the SS31 because if you're going to multiply any of your mitochondria, you want them to be your strongest and best, not multiplying any of your shit cells. Coming down to the last item on level 3, and this is the most overlooked one, and I believe it is the most impactful. A lot of people will tell you about the NADs, the MOTS-cs, the SS31s, and that's because those are all amazing. But the one everyone is missing that goes at the end of the protocol is Epitalon. You guys have heard me talk about it on this page before. It is incredible, but what it does on the mitochondria level after doing things like SS31 and MOTS-c is next level. Everything else we've talked about in this video talks about how to improve your mitochondria, how to make more of them, how to clean them, how to optimize them, and how to directly impact mitochondria itself, which is all super important. But once you clean it up, give it a new look, and supercharge it, how long is it going to act like that before it starts to decay again? That's where Epitalon comes in. All of this process banks on cell division. Now, if we know anything about Epitalon, it makes it so that our cells are able to continue to divide into our later years. There's only so many things you can do. In fact, I don't even know of many others that you can do that can teach your cells to continue to divide, because all of that happens in the telomeres. And if you don't know, your telomeres, every time your cells divide, the telomere gets a little bit shorter. Once it gets so short that it can't divide anymore, your cells just start dying. And then the only thing you can do is try to scrap and claw to save those damaged cells because they can't divide and replicate themselves. Epitalon makes it so that we can take these incredible new cells, mitochondria, everything that we've just created, and keep them replicating themselves. This part is the biggest one that gets overlooked by every protocol when it comes to cellular and mitochondria. This literally makes it so that you can stay youthful longer and stay alive longer. There are studies out there that talk about increasing lifespan by upwards of 30%. Just by regular Epitalon use. Most people would talk about using it 2 to 3 times a year. I use it myself 2 times a year. And again, that's just to make sure that everything I'm doing on the cellular level is continuing to have that same impact without falling back into the rut that it came from. That's where you need your Epitalon to seal the deal. This is why longevity scientists consider it one of the most strategically important compounds on the marketplace. This is something I have had great success with using with people, and I follow that exact protocol. I go SS31 first, followed by MOTS-c, and then Epitalon. And the feeling that these people are coming to me with, the explosion of energy from people, some of them in their 60s and 70s, feeling like they're in their 20s, asking me questions like, hey, I've been doing 3x15 sets in the gym on the weights. I'm like, what do you mean the weights? You're 70 years old. These guys are in there pumping them out. It is the most incredible longevity thing I have ever seen. The order and frequency of these products is where all the difference is made, and a lot of people overlook that. So if you're into this kind of stuff and you want to learn more about how to optimize the human body, that's everything I cover on this page. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the post notifications so that you get an update every time I come out with a new video. And if you want to see something specific, leave it in the comments for me, because I am making a new one of these videos every Wednesday and every Sunday for the foreseeable future. And I'll see you guys in the next one.